coming out of eastern Oregon, damn near Idaho. You're listening to the Double Talkin with Dog Bite Hair Show.
Thank you everyone for tuning in to Double Talkin with Dog Bite. On this episode, we've got Steve Schecter. You guys might know him as Ghostwriter. We dive a little bit into that. I found out in this interview that me and Steve have we're from very similar parts of the globe, I guess you could say. We're very rural parts of Oregon. I did not realize he was so close to me, so we spent a lot of time bullshitting about that and Oregon in general. We talk about his new album, his new book. We talk about recording process, the pandemic, kind of talk about life just in general. This is a really great interview, very easy going. Really enjoyed talking to him, and yeah, so we are going to do that interview. We'll roll into it. Duh. I'm not real smart right now. We're going to play you a little bit of music from Ghostwriter. Song is called Low on Fuel. We're going to start out with that. But first, before we roll into that, we are going to give you a word from our sponsor. So that'll come first. Then the song. And then the interview. And then, yeah. There you go.
Howdy. My name is $2 Elvis. I'm the owner-operator of King of the Road VIP Chauffeur Service. That's the tour guide service where you take a tour national with me, the King.
Well, look out now, I'm cruising around town. You wanna see the city, I'll take you around. Hop on in my baby blue sedan, but don't get jealous of my hundreds of fans. I'll show you the sights and all the bright lights. You say, Elvis, take the wheel. Elvis, take the wheel. Elvis, $2 Elvis, take the wheel.
All you gotta do, baby, is go to www.2elvis.com. Select your date, put down that deposit, and you got a date with me, the King.
Elvis, $2 Elvis, take the wheel.
Take me to where we were before. Lead me out to California. Push me down to the ocean floor, for I can witness no more. I'll be kneeling by the river's edge, envying my friends who are already dead. Pray that there is an immortal soul gone a better place than the world we've come to know. But if this is the only way to go, you're gonna have to drag me. I'm coming slow, like the last antique tractor pull. You really need to drag me. I'm coming slow. So just to point me back to the interstate, although there's very little chance that I will ever get paid. I've been off the road for too many days straight. Must be 1,000 miles from the USA. Well, I was low on fuel and even less on cash when it all went up just like a nuclear flash. The dust cleared and it's already too late. We're under the boot, living in a police state. But if this is the only way to go, you're gonna have to drag me. I'm coming slow, like the last all-Indian rodeo. You really need to drag me. I'm coming slow, gone with the last of the frontier gold. time I'll drive coast to coast. Gonna be the very last time I give up the ghost. And you won't even see me, I'll be coming so slow.
Alrighty, folks. With me on the Zoom, I got Steve Schecter. You might know him from the project Ghostwriter. Been around for quite some time, man. I know that back in my early days, I remember hearing a lot about you. Are you out of the Pacific Northwest?
I grew up in Oregon, yeah, in Central Oregon. I actually started this project in Austin, Texas, where I live now. But that was in 2002. This is like the 20th year of Ghostwriter. But I moved back to Oregon between 2007 and 2014. So I was out of the Dalles for a while. That's where
Wow, you're close to me, man. Because I'm like out of Heppner. Yeah, I'm in Hermiston now, but
okay.
I was born and raised in Heppner. Fuck, I didn't realize you were that close to me. Jeez.
Yeah, man. I was born and raised in Friend, by south of Duffer. So
no shit, really?
Yeah. So yeah, the Dalles is like the big city for us.
Holy shit!
Funny, right? Yeah.
No,
so we were in the Dalles.
That close to me.
Yeah.
You are high desert.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, man, you understand what the high fucking desert is. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people get that, man. People think when they think of Oregon, they think fucking Portland and waterfalls and shit. But there's a lot more of where we're from than there is.
Yeah. And my dad and mom, they still live in Friend out there, and my brother's in the Dalles. But no, I agree. That whole, like, the label is end of the West, and all of the imagery that goes with that, I get from that area, really, as far as like, yeah, it's just a high desert, and
that's in the middle of fucking nowhere too, man.
Middle of nowhere, yeah.
It's in between the freeway and Bend, pretty much. Jeez, I didn't realize that, man.
Yeah,
that's rad, dude.
Yeah, the freeway. That's funny. The 84, which is, and it's about it's about 30 miles south of the Dalles. Friend is, and so Duffer is the little town that I went to like elementary school. So yeah, that's and Duffer has K through 12 in that one.
How many kids were in your school? Like fucking, like how many kids were in your class? Like 6?
Well, no, there was like my brother's was like 8. We were one of the larger classes, and we had like 20 kids.
Really?
So,
that was about mine in Heppner, but our classes started shrinking towards my days. But yeah, geez, man, that's nuts.
But I did move, though, I'll tell you this, in middle school, my family moved to the Portland area. So I moved to the big city when I was like 7th grade and, lived there until I lived in Austin. But my folks kept their place out there and they moved back, over 20 years ago now. So, yeah, so when we were back in Oregon, all my family's back east out there now. So
I thought about moving out that way for a minute. I kind of had a job opportunity in Morrow, which is a little bit more east of you guys, but
yeah, I know where it is.
But yeah, I thought about it. I thought it'd be kind of cool to live out there, actually, to be honest. Just because it's got to be like peaceful, What the hell does your family do out there for work and stuff? There's not much.
My dad actually runs a little sawmill, and that's what I grew up doing. And it's like specialty hardwoods and stuff, maple and walnut and stuff from the area. He actually started it. He was a logger in the day, and he started importing rosewood in the 80s as something that just kind of a crazy idea. And so he got this bandsaw that saws more precisely and saws hardwood. And he's been doing that, since the middle of the 80s or so. And so, my earliest jobs, I used to work pulling green chain for him, shoveling sawdust when I was a really little kid. And that's what we did in the Valley too. When I say the Valley, Portland area, when we moved into town, it was just to get more jobs. And he was, at that time, there was a lot of furniture makers, and black walnut was a big industry. So he rented a little spot there where he could run the mill out by Carver. I don't know if you know the Portland area real well. We were in Carver, And yeah, I worked for him through my teenage years and up until I was about 17 or 18, and just a little bit before I moved down to Austin. So, and
What
they're
took
still
you to
doing it.
Austin?
If you go to Pine Creek Wood, that's my folks. My dad and my brother still do that out there. So,
Huh. Well, if you ever come out this way, you got to hit me up, man. We'll hang out.
yeah, sounds good.
I don't know what. I mean, we're in the middle of nowhere, but
Oh, I knew you were out there, though. I thought that was interesting that you're out in Hermas.
hey, man, I've never met anybody in the music scene that was more in like raised in more of the fucking boonies than me, dude. Like, fuck, man. If anybody gets where I'm from, it's you, man. Like, it's more so. Like, Jesus, I'm closer to shit than you were. How far? Maybe not. I mean, I guess the Dalles was probably about what, an hour for you too.
No, it was more like 45, maybe.
Yeah, that's
you know?
that's about what Hepner is to Hermiston.
Okay.
You know, and Doofer's pretty close to the same size as Hepner. It might be a little smaller, but not by much, you know.
Yeah, Doofer was like 500 people when I was growing up out there, and I don't think it's changed too much. But I don't know what like how big is Hermiston as a town? Like 10,000?
It's about the size of the Dalles, maybe a little bigger. It's got a few more things. It's got a Walmart here, you know. I don't know. It's like
okay.
Yeah,
Big Walmart in the Dalles.
Well, yeah, there's Fred Meyer's there, I think.
Yeah.
There's not a Walmart in the Dalles. There's a Walmart in Hood River, but there's there's a Fred Meyer's in the Dalles though, and that's better anyways.
I should know that. You're right, man. It's not a
But I mean, there's some cooler stuff in the Dalles, but there's like a little less of some things. But it's kind of, I don't know. I thought about moving to the Dalles too because it's closer to Portland and it's still kind of off the beaten path. But it's just, I don't know. The wind kind of turns me off because it's windy enough here. It's even more windy there. But well, man, that's crazy. I knew you're from Portland, but I thought or not Portland, but Oregon, but I just thought you're from Portland. I didn't realize.
Well, and musically, I was kind of, when we were back there, we were living in the Dalles from 07 to I think 2012 maybe, or 2011. And then we lived in Portland the last couple of years before we came down here. And that was on my wife's job. She does nursing. She actually went to school in the Dalles. When she graduated, the jobs were better in Portland. And she's from down here. She's from South Texas. So, you know, being in the Dalles wasn't as fun for her as it was for me. You know, it's kind of and we came from Austin to there. So it was a bit of a transition. So yeah, at the time we went from the Dalles to Portland and then back down here. But yeah, I was touring out of the Dalles there, and it was always kind of funny to me because so few people come out of that area, and usually music's like, you know, focused in the big cities and stuff like that. But
yeah. I mean, I really still don't ever see any. I mean, there's a few places that have music at the Dalles, but it's always like, you know, fucking blues bands and shit.
Yeah, I was always trying to play. Like, I played in Hood River quite a bit, and I actually ended up with a job over there for a bit at the brewery. So it was like I was just working in the warehouse at Full Sail. I don't want to tell you too much about the job life, but I was doing that when Amanda was in school. And so they had like a couple of the little microbrews that have shows. And just because I knew guys from working there, I could get some of the shows, but I would pretty much clear a room in there. And, you know, we're more catering to like, you know, like where reggae meets like hippie jam band.
Yeah.
Bluegrassy at all. It's like this weird, not really.
I know how it goes, man. I clear them here, dude, because like I'm not country enough. Yeah.
I have a fun story about Double Mountain. They were really good guys, man. They're probably still there. And that's
I just went there the other day, actually, like a week ago.
Okay, I don't know if they still have music, but they had that one whole room for live music, and it's the one place I played where like guy was real nice to me, and I knew him through like a mutual coworker that you know, the brewery world. And they started out with like, they pay pretty well. It's a great business model because they got, you know, they're slinging beer all day and pizzas and stuff. So it's like a couple hours set. And it's just the one place I played where it went from paying me like $300, book it again a couple months, and like $150, and then like down to $100. They just kept nailing it down because it was like, you know, I just think that most of the guys, they would pay $300 do it and have people dancing and, you know, buying beer all night. Where I would clear them out, and I'd have like 5 or 10, you know, diehards or whatever, and people I worked with, people that dug it, but not enough to like merit the $300. So that's kind of a lousy story, but it was funny to me how it was like every time. He's like a little bit of, my first impression is like, this is the best gig, man, $300 and it's right down the road, you know. But yeah, the Dalles itself, I never found a gig there. I played over in Hood River, and there was a guy running a bowling alley up in Goldendale for a moment there. That was as wild as anything, right? Goldendale.
Yeah.
And I played a couple of cool shows up there, and he didn't really get it off the ground. And his name's Benny. He ended up moving to Dallas of all places. So anyway, so yeah, I was always just playing in the Valley, man, in Portland. Went down to Bend like one time.
But well, you toured around a bit too, didn't you, though?
Yeah, and I was touring from before, like, you know, starting down here in Austin, I'd always hit Midwest and East Coast loops. So when we moved up there, I kind of started to try to do Northwest and West Coast more. But also I would just beeline, because the drives are so long, I'd beeline to like Minneapolis and start a tour that went across the top down the East Coast and like end in Texas and just beeline back. Because at the time, you know, yeah, California, we got some good spots in Oregon now and in Washington, but other than Northern Cali, it's pretty rough in Southern Cali, Arizona, New Mexico, pretty rough, long drives. So I would just go out to the other part of the country, you know, where the towns are close together. And
yeah. Where'd you play at when you were living out here? Like as far as Portland and in the Northwest area?
Portland was the Kenton Club, which I think is still there. There was a place called the No that was really great, and it closed. Johnny B's down in Medford was always great to me.
Yeah.
I would hit Tacoma. I know you've been up into Tacoma, and there was a place, the New Frontier, I think it was called. That was
it's gone now though.
Yeah, and then before that it was Bob's Java Jive, which maybe is there. That's like a strange, the building shaped like a teapot. You know
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I've never been there, but maybe. I mean, it might still be there.
I just, because it was such a dive, I could imagine maybe it survived. But then I've seen you listed at the last place I played up there, and it's slipping my mind what it's
called.
The
Valley?
Yes, the Valley. And then in Seattle, I got to play the place that's right by the tractor is called the Sunset, and Slim's, places like that. And I've been at the Corazon. But most recently I was at like Tim's up there.
Oh yeah.
Tim's, yeah.
Tim's didn't make it through the pandemic, man. I just found that out the other day.
I saw that, yeah. So yeah, you know, wherever I could. I always liked Johnny's a lot, and I used to go from there down to Arcata and play the Alibi down there and kind of do little loops around there. So
did you ever play in Eugene at all?
No. I did once, but it wasn't Eugene, it was Cottage Grove.
Axe and the Fiddle?
Yes. That's what it's called.
I never got to play there. I think it's shut down now. If not, they kind of moved away from our kind of music. Probably because they were losing money.
Yeah, everybody moves away from this kind of music.
Sometimes you get like a niche where some people like it, you know, like I had it going in Hebner pretty good for a couple of years because like nothing ever went out there, you know, and then but it just got kind of to the point where people were just going because, you know, there's nothing else to do. And it was kind of, it was becoming a problem because people were being dicks, you know, to touring bands and shit because it's just like a redneck town, you know. But yeah, no, I mean, it was pretty fun though. That's cool, man. I had no idea, no fucking idea that you were that Oregon,
that rural. No, I always feel with touring too. There's a funny like equation where, you know, I learned this many years ago. You go out on the road and you think, oh, I need to play in like Chicago and New York and like LA. These are the worst places because it's terrible. You know, it's much like Austin where there's stuff every night, so much competition, the most jaded audiences. And so like in the Dalles, I really tried to push that. And you find if you get too far off the path, you know, then it doesn't work also. But you find that sweet spot, and it might be like Medford or something where people are aware of shit, but they aren't overly saturated. You know what I mean? That's
yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's always where you have the best shows. Is that's like not LA, but over in like Riverside or some shit, and not San Francisco, but maybe up in Arcata or whatever, or over in Chico. You know, I used to have great shows over there. It's like yeah, big city. Seattle's a great example. I never really can draw more than 5 people in Seattle.
Yeah, I do good and I do okay in Seattle and Tacoma, but Seattle's not as good as it used to be. Portland, I fucking drowned in Portland, man.
They just don't care, right?
Yeah,
They
I've
don't
never had a good show in Portland. I don't think like ever. I've played there plenty. It's not from lack of trying, but you're right. I play Johnny's all the time and love Johnny B's. Medford's one of my favorite towns to play.
People care. They come out and they actually want to support music and stuff.
Yeah, man. And then but yeah, you're right. There's all those little sweet spots. Like, you know, it's not I've never really played outside. I mean, I played Moonrunners in Chicago, so it was obviously great, but that was the only time I played there. But I used to play like Springfield, you know, or like Alton, like a shit ton of places in Illinois that weren't Chicago, and always had a great time. You know, it's like a lot of like those Medford-sized cities in other states are a lot of the time, like you're saying, the better cities for sure. You know.
Yeah. And the more that you'll see people, like if you have a good show in a big city, you may not see any of those people the next time because it's probably you're supporting somebody or the bill was good or the stars just lined up. But those smaller mid-sized towns is where you'll get that loyalty of like, oh, I got to support music. This guy's coming back. And I want him to come back again. So I got to come out, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, but yeah, Austin's probably my least favorite city to play in Texas for that reason, you know?
I don't blame you, man. It's rough as a local. I pull out about 3 people when I play here. It's just, and I clear a lot of people. So it's I'm at that point. The venues changed up a lot through the COVID thing, and a lot of them more have stayed around than you might have feared. But yeah, the culture's changed. It changes quickly here. It's a boom town, and so yeah, I'm in a little rut right now locally where some of the places that I was playing aren't doing the same thing that they were, or just aren't having me, let's say. So, and when I do get shows, I mean, I enjoy playing, but yeah, it's like 3 people, and it's not to disparage, but it's usually hardly worth the effort, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and COVID changed a lot of shit, man. I don't know. Playing's weird, booking's weird. I don't know why exactly. I can't pinpoint the reasons, but yeah, I find the same thing with you. Like, there's places that I did really fucking good at and really liked playing, and now they just like all of a sudden they've got like a totally different style of music.
Yeah,
I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, I don't get it. Like, how did somebody hop the?
It's like everybody lost their minds. Yeah,
yeah, it's weird, man.
No, so on that though, I gotta plug the record because we're talking about all this stuff.
Oh yeah, man. I was gonna say we'll roll into that, buddy.
It's called The Antique Tractor Pull and Last Hayride double CD. All those pictures were taken by my dad at the Duper Threshing Bee, and during this time, it was the record was put together over this. I mean, I recorded it this last fall, but the songs were put together starting in the shutdown and all that. And like all of us, we had this time on our hands, and yeah, I was just thinking about the past a lot and reminiscing, and not just in those last couple of years, but going back the last 20 years and more, really my entire music awareness and before even, and just that anyway, there's a lot of nostalgia in there, and that shows in the artwork and all that. Of like, I had to explain to people what a fucking tractor pull was, which I thought was funny because I just thought that was something. Yeah, I know, right? I thought that was something that people get the reference, and I made these metaphors about tractor pulls. But anyway, so there's a lot of Central Oregon in that album to me, and in some of the tunes and stuff.
Huh. Okay. So, and then you wrote a book too, right? Does that go with the album, or is it a separate?
It's separate. I do it. I wrote it, and a lot of it was already written because it's in large part a lyric book. So it's called No One at the Circus. The story, the subtitle is The Story of Ghostwriter Through Place and Song. A guy I've known out in Ohio, Athens, Ohio, speaking of a sweet-sized town for playing through. I used to do really well in it's the college town, and it's kind of out there in the southeastern Ohio, kind of the tip of the Appalachian mountain range there. But a guy named Bram Riddlebarger, who used to play in the Waylon Elroys, who I've known for years, he started this little press, God Pile Press, and he hit me up about, he does a lot of poetry and stuff, said, hey, you want to do he's always been real supportive, you want to do a lyric book? And I was like, of course, I have nothing going on. I'd love to do that. But so I got to write, he's advertising as like part memoir, part lyric, but it's not about the songs, like what they're about, because I never do that, but it's about where and when they came about. So it basically starts at about 2002 when I started playing solo, and just kind of takes the story till 2020 or so, 2019. Actually, it ends about 2018, 2019. And then, so the actual writing part of it that I got to do is kind of interspersed between basically nothing to do with the new records, the new double album thing. It's all lyrics from previous releases. Because honestly, at the time I was doing it, I was like, I'm done with this shit. I'm not putting out any. This is the 10th album. I've got 9 albums out. I don't need to do that. They don't sell like hotcakes. And then after I finished the book thing, I was looking around and it was like, well, shit, I got nothing else to do. I guess I got these songs. I'll put out another album. So just something to keep your focus on, right?
Yeah. So are you doing, do you have other shit you do too, or is this just your main project?
Oh, no, I do other stuff. I'm actually fortunate enough. I do my own contracting and carpentry stuff. So I try to just work for myself. I do contract to a couple other guys in town, work for them, but I've been able the last year or so to get most jobs just myself. But I've always had day jobs, and I just, I prefer to be, in charge, because I just realized when I got into my 40s, I became a really shitty employee. So if I could just do it on my own, but yeah, the music thing is like it trickles in, but it's not much of a living.
Okay. But is Ghostwriter the only project you have currently?
Yeah, it is. It's I don't want to get too dark. I had this band, Beautiful Delilahs, and we were recording right when the pandemic hit, March 2020. And but that band dissolved, and the guy that started it with me actually passed away in October. His name was Trey Robles. And so I don't need to dwell on that. Don't need to get too dark, but that was part of why I had to just kick it back into Ghostwriter again.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's not a problem, man. This is what this podcast is for too. I've lost a shit ton of people over the years. One of my best friends is Owen Mays. I did a lot of time on the highway with him and shit. So I mean, it sucks. And me and Brooke Blanche from the Calamity Cubes had to talk about, like, when you do what you do, like, we're really great. We're really lucky to do what we do, because we get to know like a lot more people than the average person does. But that's also cool. A fucking burden, because the more people the more people you're going to have like see die,
And there is something, I think, in this last couple of years, I think musicians, often, not all of us, but there's a shorter expiration date for some of us.
Yeah,
it seems like a higher mortality rate, unfortunately, and for numerous reasons.
Well, and even just our fans too, or people that are fans of the music, because we're all kind of tortured souls and have our own ways of dealing with that, exactly. and that's what bonds us together, whether we make the music or listen to it, and but yeah, the rate of losing people is much higher, just in general. Just the more people the more people you're going to know that die, and then when you do what we do, and like you just said, it's you kind of got to be a little twisted to relate to what you and I
No, but you're right. What you're saying about what you and Brooke were talking about, I've thought of that a lot the last couple of years, where it's like, man, it seems like, because it's a double-edged sword. It's fortunate to be connected with all these people across the country and stuff, and you get to meet a lot of people. And then, you're just aware of, even if it's not somebody you were real close with, you see so many people every week.
A lot of times you might not be close to that person, but you might have stayed at their house and met their kid. Yeah. It's like
had some relation. Yeah, you had some way of relating to them, and so you see the impact they had if they were a musician, or you see the support they gave if they were, just a supporter of that, or somebody.
Well, and it's a lot like also like being born and raised in a small town, because everybody too.
Right.
I mean, it's like when the ambulance goes out in Hebner, everybody's hairs stand up, because there's a good chance you're going to know who's in that ambulance. So it's kind of, I don't know, I guess it's kind of similar in some ways. It's just with a community like the music community, it's people, and you might not, I guess what I'm getting at is, even though you might not be connected to that person in a small town, you know who they are. You see them at the grocery store, you know their kids, you know their fathers or mothers or whatever, you know. So like you're affected. You know, I guess it's like it's not exactly like how when you're raised in a city or you know, where you have your friends and family, but there's a lot of faces that you don't connect to, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's too bad. So that kind of drove you back to doing the Ghostwriter though, huh?
You know, the whole last time period was like, I don't know, such a funny thing. It's like, I've done it long enough, the solo thing. It's not to say that I'm burned out, but you know, when you're by yourself, you can burn yourself out. And the more harder you work at stuff, you know, there's a backlash to that or something. You're like, man, I'm sick of this. And
Yeah.
getting older and all that. So yeah, I was really into the 3-piece Beautiful Delilah. The drummer was great, bass player was great. It was a cool opportunity for me to do something different. And just everything, you know, went to shit. And I did get the record out and I was glad about that. And I think it's a great record, but it was just like this slow freaking, lack of a sensitive term, just a slow death. And then finally, you know, after just dragging it on, and then the kicker was then Trey actually passes away, and I couldn't believe it. And he was planning to move to Corpus anyway, so I'd already kind of written off the band. But also in my head, I thought, I don't know what I'll do with this, you know. And you know, and I wish he was around, and I wish he'd moved to Corpus with his fiance. That would have been a much better ending to everything. But yeah, for me, one of the things that was so difficult, and I think some musicians relate to this, is just to stop doing everything, you know. So that's when we were in the studio, and then it was like March 8th, 2020, and they're like, nope, stop, can't go back. So we're like, all right, well, we're done. We really did 2 days. I mixed the album. I'm just kind of rambling at you, but I mixed the album on the guy's porch because he's being like, you know, super safe. And I was like, I'm not the kind of guy that's just like, oh, okay, well, fuck it. Or I can't really, you know, when I like to start a project, I like to see it through pretty quickly. If you record something and you come back months later, you know, so I look back at my texts with those guys, and it's like way back, you know, 2 years ago now, where I was like, well, what do you think? A couple more weeks? Like, when we get together, guys? You know, I was the last to accept it, you know, and so that's my own downfall. And I realized, like, maybe one of the lessons I learned is that, you know, sometimes you put effort in, and who knows, you know, who knows what the best thing is. If I don't put effort into things, I go crazy. So
yeah, I hear that, man. It's like I just pulled the plug on my label. I pulled the plug on a couple things, you know, fucking music festivals, a lot of the bookings I was doing. And so, but now I'm kind of going crazy, you know, because like I just was dumping, and it was just getting to the point where it was like too much, you know, like you're saying with doing the music, man. It's like you can only go out on the road and lose your ass so many times before you feel fucking defeated, you know.
You know what I always come back to, though, the one thing more torturous than playing music is to be not playing music.
yeah
Kind of crazy.
That's a good point to make there, man. But yeah, so where did you record this new Ghostwriter album?
I did it right here in the room I'm sitting in, man. Well, camp out in the hallway, you know, that kind of thing. So
cool. What'd you use? Just Pro Tools or?
No, here, I'll show you if I can do this right. I'll use this tape machine in the corner there.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
It's an analog recording, analog mix. I mean, I take it to a guy that masters it here. But yeah, I'm pretty arcane. I got my boards up here. You can see it. It's there's no memorization or programming. I have to get it right and get a mix that I like, and I might write a fader here and there, but it's nothing more, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, it reminded me, you know, I've been listening to your stuff for a while, and but this one was different, man. I think I liked it more than any of your other albums, man. And it reminded me a bit of old school garage rock mixed with like Hassel Atkins or something, you know.
Right on.
Yeah, it would really remind me like the Sonics or some, well, I guess Austin garage rock, maybe a little Rocky Erickson, fucking, or 13th Floor Elevator, kind of like just that. I don't know. I could be way off. I could be way off because how I hear things is different than some people, but
No, I listened to that stuff, and that's cool, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I
the
kind of
last-
feel like you might have channeled the Austin sound in this one for sure, you know?
funny. I don't know, man. Whenever I do the whole process, when you finish something, you don't listen to your own shit very much, but I'll listen to my previous records sometimes while I'm trying to finish one to kind of get a reference. And I'll just cringe and think, God, that's just terrible, man. And that's why I'm like doing this again or whatever. But I appreciate what you said, because I like the,
And I don't think it's any different than any other artist out there either, man. I can't listen to my old shit, you know.
Yeah.
My last album was good, like okay, you know, but any of the other ones, fuck, I hate listening to them, man. So
I'm in that moment where, because I just have listened to it a fucking 1,000 times, I'm done listening to it. I got the CDs, I proofed those, and then I've heard it like online to make sure it sounds all right there, but like I can't listen to it. But I'm at a point where like, oh, I'm really happy with that. And when I check in on it in like a year or two, I'll be like, oh, that sounds terrible. But that's like you're talking about. That's the way that that's kind of the process. And I realized that because I put out a bunch of records before. It's like, it doesn't make sense when you don't have much of an audience to keep putting out records, but you do it because you're always kind of obsoleting that. It's like, you just want something to represent your current state. It's not about having this huge catalog. It's about just having something that you feel representative. So I think that's what always drives me to do another ones. I think, it's,
yeah, man. You have any plans of touring on it at all?
Man, I wish. I don't have anything right now. I'd like to think that maybe by this fall I can line up some stuff. I've gotten a little discouraged on that front, to be honest with you, but I see some guys out there making it happen, and so I'm getting some inspiration from that,
Yeah. So who do you normally play with when you go out, man?
Anybody that'll have me, guys that I've known a long time, sometimes, like local guys that'll hit up. But yeah, it's I'm usually am in that in-between thing where I'm usually getting some locals that I either, if I don't know them from way back, then it's people that I don't really know. And then they might look at my shit and say, oh, well, like, they think from on paper that I've been around a while, maybe it should be a headliner, but really I should probably just be supporting somebody,
Mm-hmm.
People are there or whatever. So, but I haven't been out since 2018. So it was like, I did a short little leg in 2019, but not much of a tour. 2018, I hit it pretty hard. So it's been a minute. It was before COVID, we moved again, things like that. And so, it's been a little bit since I've tried the tour path. And honestly, I'm not great at promoting the shows anymore. It's like, I feel like,
No, it's hard, man. It's Facebook, social media makes it as hard as they fucking can, really, to promote shit,
Yeah, that's a little bit, I get to talk about that a little bit in that book we're talking about, just the shit changing. But I swear, man, this is kind of not to be real negative, but this is like, I do remember, because I was doing this before that the internet was around, but it wasn't the end all be all of your promotion. Mm-hmm. Clubs picked up a lot of the slack, posters, and to me, there was something really cool and magical that you didn't really know what was going to happen. You showed up, what's this going to be like? What's this town? What's this dive? And sometimes it would just be amazing. And sometime a few years ago, I got to the point where I realized that I kind of know what's going to happen because of the Facebook or whatever else. Like, before you go into it, like, I know who's promoted or not. I know kind of from the feedback on there if it's going to be attended or not. You know what I mean? Before I get to the show.
Yeah,
so
it kind of sucks.
Fun out of it. Yeah, it's more fun to have that like shrouded and
Hey, man, we're about to lose our meeting. When that happens, just log back on. We'll keep going. All right. Because I only get 40 minutes on Zoom. Sometimes they do this, sometimes they don't. Apparently they picked today to do this. So actually I'll just end it and then just log back on and we'll have 40 more minutes. Okay.
All right. I'll do my best.
All right. Awesome. All right. Yeah. So Facebook kind of sucks for promoting, I guess, that like you were saying, it's just, you can kind of watch, to see if your show is going to be good or not before you even get there. The element of surprise is kind of gone.
Yeah, I think it's some of the fun out of that. And really, it's probably, at one point, I kind of just alleviated some of the clubs and people from doing any, they put it all on the artist now. It's like, if you don't live in that town and you're trying to promote 7 shows in a week, it's a pretty tall order,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of sucks too because like I don't know, the element of a good flyer is like not all that appreciated anymore. Like at least hanging it up, you know,
Yeah.
like more like something to see on Facebook, which like I swear to God, they keep me from being able to, or people from being able to see my shit. Really, you know.
I know.
It sucks. I really missed the day where you just posted something and people that liked you could fucking see it. Now you got to worry about what the algorithms are, whatever the fuck that is, you know. And I don't understand why it's got to be such a fucking chore, you know.
Yeah, I could go on that. We don't need to, but yeah, it's a terrible corporations that really just want to consume people with being on the app, not going to your show, you know, really like shit that just keeps them involved. But yeah, and as far as the artist thing, they want your money. They want you to pay.
Well, fuck, I would pay them. I pay them and I still can't win.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, back when I was promoting like big festivals and stuff, man, or not big festivals, obviously, but you know, festival where you'd get maybe, you know, a few hundred people. I would pay them and it still wouldn't fucking work. It's like you have to pay them a shit ton is what they want. You know, that's like you can't give them because I've given them up to like a couple $100, you know, and not got shit from it. So I kind of decided I would rather keep my $200, roll the dice, and try to figure out a better way after that, you know. But yeah, actually, I think I owe Facebook $50 because I was just like, I managed to rip them off. I think they still remind me every once in a while, you owe us $50. I'm like, whatever. Fuck.
I think they'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck you, Zuckerberg. You don't need my money.
Put that at the last of the list.
Yeah, I'm not really concerned. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, whatever. You know. I invite Mark Zuckerberg to try to come and get it from me. I don't dislike a lot of people enough to punch them, but I would probably punch Mark Zuckerberg if he got smart. But yeah, dude, this is a really great interview, man. I did not have any idea. I had a feeling you're from Oregon, but I always just thought you're from Portland, man.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I'm glad to talk about that stuff too. That most people don't even know where that is. So.
Yeah, no, most people don't know where I'm at either, man. And you're even more remote than me. In some ways, you know, in some ways, yeah, in some ways, no. I mean, you're a little closer to Portland, about the same to a somewhat city, not really a city, but a big town, I would say, you know.
Yeah. No, it's funny. Like you said, though, people always, their impression of Oregon really is that it's like, and everybody always says it's beautiful, and it is beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, they always think of Portland and the Willamette Valley and, you know, maybe Mount Hood or something, but they don't realize how much of the state is east of all that and, you know, and south and just, you know.
Mm-hmm. It's the same way in Washington, man, where they like don't realize, like, you know, like just east of Snoqualmie Pass, like in Ellensburg, is pretty much like where their shit starts to look like basically Eastern Oregon or Central Oregon, you know. Yeah. It's like high desert, it's dry. I love it out here, man, honestly, but it's just.
You're asking about places in the Northwest. Spokane was a place I used to enjoy playing when I was living out.
I like Spokane, man. People shit on Spokane a lot, but I've always dug Spokane.
I always thought that if the Dalles had a few more like ex-punk rockers, it would be like Spokane a little bit, you know, because it has a similar part. I don't know, it just used to remind me a little bit of that, but they have much more of like, I met some good musicians out there, you know, and they had a supportive, recurring group of people, you know. I used to play a little place, the Baby Bar, that was like, they serve burritos and shit in the day. And, but yeah, I was used to think of that, like, you know, if the Dalles could just get their shit together, be a little more like Spokane.
Yeah. Yeah, now they're kind of like turning to the whole yuppie side of shit, like the winery, you know. It's like they're trying to keep it bougie, huh?
The Dalles or Spokane?
The Dalles. Yeah, that's kind of the direction they're going now.
So, man, my theory on that is they've actually been like on the cusp of bourgeois like for a while, and there's something we could go into what it is. There's something about the Dalles that repels a certain type of growth. I may be wrong. I haven't really been in there. Yeah, man. But it's so funny. Like I was saying, when we were living up there and I was working in Hood River, 20 minutes over, and it's like night and day, man, as far as the type of development and the type of, the cost. I mean, I guess actually it's become, my brother was telling me that it's become a lot more expensive to live in the Dalles, like everywhere. But yeah, it used to blow my mind where it's the same Columbia River, it's the same Mount Hood, all the same beautiful surroundings. And that Hood River, just everybody speaks so highly of it. And all of the businesses are like, little restaurants and coffee shops and all this shit. And then in the Dalles, they run out they had a tattoo shop and they run those guys out of town. And they had, they're just, it's, some of it is the old farmers and stuff that are really like on the city council or whatever. But some of there's more to it than that. There's
well, I don't know, man. It almost feels like to me too. It's like that 20 miles is really important though. It's like when you hit Hood River, it feels like you're so much closer to Multnomah Falls and like, the gorge that everybody talks about. And, honestly, I think the desert side of the gorge is just as pretty as the sites with the waterfalls and shit like that, but it feels like just in that 20 miles, that's where you go from like Eastern Oregon to closer to Portland, the closer to that. I don't know if that has any contributing factors to it or not, but you're right. There's not a bunch of difference though. And like the Dalles and Hood River, they've got like a rivalry going too. It's like,
oh yeah. That's funny though, but yeah, and the Dalles doesn't have the influx. Like a lot of people that I met when I was working over there in the river moved there because they were like, because they like mountain sports or the river or whatever, and young people and stuff. And you don't have that in the Dalles. You don't have young people moving in there. You have, people like me that if you have family around there, you would move there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't know whoever told you that it's getting expensive. They're right, man. It's like this side of Oregon too, like over by Boardman and Hermiston, it's insane. It's like almost fucking Portland prices. We used to be able to like 5 years ago, you could buy a 2-bedroom house for like $100,000. Now it's like you're at 250. You want a 3-bedroom house, you're looking at fucking $400,000. Like Wow. It's dancing in Portland prices, man. Like rents, they're still battling rent a bit, but like what happened? Fucking Amazon moved in out here, and that's
I didn't know that.
Yep, there's fucking 2 or 3 Amazon spots in Boardman, and it just shot every fucking thing up, man. The same thing happened in Seattle. I was up there when it happened in Seattle, or it started to happen, so I knew it was gonna, but I was like, they're gonna ruin my fucking home, man. And to be honest, I kind of fucking have a love-hate relationship with it here, and you probably can relate. I don't know what kind of music or what kind of your dad was a logger and shit and a mill worker or owner, but man, my mom, I was raised by a single mom who was the fucking local bartender, probably like had a bit of a drug problem. So like when I was in that town of 1,000 people, I was like judged fucking. So like, and it's just like, you're not born here with the last name, you're fucked kind of, and if you're different and you don't fucking believe in what they believe in, then you're fucked, and I've never believed in what they believe in. I've never been a church guy, never been a fucking a homophobe or whatever, and I was friends with all we were so rural. We didn't even have fucking like punk rock, but I was probably the closest thing to a punker you could have out here, and so, but anyways, long story, even fucking longer, I guess, is like the thing that's kind of kept me here is I like how it looks. I've got family here, and the rent was always cheap was the big thing,
Yeah.
And now I'm like, fuck, man, like I'm looking at other places because I'm like, I'm not going to stick around and pay this rent here when I'm not as happy as I could be. I'll go fucking someplace else. I've been looking at places in the Midwest and shit, just to kind of see where the wages match the living a little better. But yeah, it's insane out here now. It used to be cool, but at least that aspect of it was cool. You could get a 2-bedroom house for like $800. Now it's not the case,
Yeah, I didn't know that. That was my brother that told me that about the Dalles, but obviously I have no idea what's going on there. Like,
I mean, it's affected that too. Like Arlington, all those fucking little towns are just going up, and it's going to affect all the middle between Portland and the eastern side just as much, and you can even see it happening on the far east over by Baker and shit. Their housing markets went up,
But see, so I told you, asked me like that question about like what my old man does. So he's got something that sustains him, and my brother works for him. They don't have any other like employees or whatever. So that's that question to you, like, what is it people, because that's a big one for that area. The Dalles, they did move Google in, doesn't really employ that people. I think a lot of people commute to Hood River or whatever, because it used to be like the aluminum plant. That was way back when I was a kid. But so what do people do if you move to Hermiston?
Well, there's a lot of wheat farming.
Okay.
You guys probably have quite a bit of wheat out there too, huh?
In the Dalles area?
Yeah.
In Friend, sure. You mean not down here in Texas just yet.
No.
The last ones to do that.
It's funny. I'm talking to you like you're there now.
No, I know, but there is. I mean, it's so funny. So that I guess it's just more public now. But yeah, there was like a Christmas tree farm out there that went fully into the weed thing. But to be honest, in the Friend area, just nobody lives out there. There's like literally like maybe 10 spread out families, probably less than that. So
yeah, I actually grew up too. My grandparents lived in a town. It's even more rural than Hebner, this little ghost town called Hardman. That's like 20 miles south of Hebner. And that was the same. There's like a population of 30 people there,
So I guess the weed thing's actually kind of good, because I did notice that when I visited last, which was a year ago, visit my folks, and the Dalles had like a weed store down by the
railroad. They got like 3 now, man.
Yeah, and I was like, well, that's good, and it seemed like I don't know, it seemed like it was busy. And
one's like right there where Kmart used to be too. So
they're probably like some jobs in the area coming about.
Yeah, and then but yeah, out here we had a sawmill in Hebner, and it shut down, and the population dropped by half.
Yeah,
I think we went from having about 2,500 people to about like 1,500. Now it's probably down to like 12 to 1,300 people.
Was this like middle of the 90s when that happened though?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I remember all that, man. I was living up there then. But that was not, my old man's thing was so small. He made it through that. He's part of a group still. There's still a group of people with a lawsuit against like Weyerhaeuser and shit because of how the big mills made out on that whole deal, So he wasn't a production sawmill competing with like, guys that were sawing Doug fir and all this shit, the clear cutting groups or whatever.
Yeah, to this day, you'll still hear people bitch about the spotted owl.
Yeah, it's just interesting that he's he doesn't have any confidence in it. He's like, well, it's one of those things but he gets an update every now and again about this ongoing lawsuit from 25 years ago when they pretty much shut the woods down. And same as out where I grew up, where even though he was able to weather that storm, actually that was around the time he'd already moved into town when that had happened. But yeah, that really changed the area around the Dalles and the amount of people, and they'd already lost the aluminum plants and shit. So it really was more of a booming area. Definitely when I was a kid, there was like rural industry, and there was like 2 bars in Duford that had live music and shit, which is kind of a mind blower because you wouldn't have enough people to support that now.
Yeah, Hebner did too. Hebner was popping, man, and live music, all kinds of shit. And then now there's 1 bar, everything's kind of died. But
loggers were drinkers,
Oh yeah, man, they partied.
Yeah, and the other thing is so funny, there's this like reputation where people always associate that with being rednecks, which is fine. But really, when I was a kid, everybody looked, like the beards and shit, and they long hair and ponytails, and it was like they all looked like they were in freaking ZZ Top, the loggers at the early 80s. And
to me, it kind of is what a redneck looks like, a little bit, Right. So, no scraggly beards, flannel,
Well, I guess because I've lived in Texas now for so long that that stereotype.
Oh yeah, that would make sense. Their version of rednecks is way different than ours.
It's more of a kicker. Yeah, it's not the same. So
yeah, I could understand that for sure. But yeah, I mean, and then we've got Lamb Weston out here, which they make all the fries for McDonald's, shit like that. There's a bunch of food processing plants here too that employs a lot of people. I work at a mental health facility. I'm an administrator there. That's what I do. Yeah. Yeah, it takes one to know one, I guess.
I wouldn't have guessed that one. That's cool.
Yeah, I started from the bottom and worked up, man. So but yeah, there's I don't know, man. Farming.
Does Felix live out in that area now?
No, he still lives down in the Chico area and stuff.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I know you're in contact with him, and I didn't know if he got back to Oregon.
Yeah, he's a big fan of yours, man. He's always talking highly of you, man. He thinks your music's genius and stuff, you know. He's a fan, that's for sure, man.
I like him as well, man. I haven't seen him in a long time.
Yeah, he's a good friend, dude. He's always, I don't know, he's interesting as shit. You know, we got a podcast now. I'm sure that we'll be playing a lot of your new album because he actually was like, he hit me up yesterday with ideas for our podcast, and it was interview Ghostwriter, and I was like, I'm already interviewing him tomorrow. Yeah, he literally was like, oh, don't forget to talk to him about his book, because I didn't know that you had a book coming out too. I just knew you had the album. So yeah, he's up to date on what you're doing, man. He's a fan.
Cool. Tell him I said hey when you see him.
I will. I'm sure he'll watch this and hear it himself.
I saw you guys are working together on different stuff, so I didn't know if he was back in Southern Oregon or going up to where you're at. Or
he was up here. I tried to produce one of his newest album, but just with the pandemic and like you said, like him being so far away, we couldn't do it as quick. Like I'm kind of like you, like I want to bust it all out at once, you know. And I kind of found that out by doing Felix's album or not finishing it, you know. It's that we did his parts and we waited like a month and had the band come in, and I was just like, I hate this. I fucking hate it.
I don't even care about this anymore.
Yeah, I was like, the second I heard it come back, and it was like when we were having the band play, I was feeling good about it, and it came back, and I was like, fuck, this sucks. I hate it, you know. So, and then we already spent some money on it and shit, and then we're like, what do we do? Then we're just gonna like re-record the whole thing, but it's just been one thing after another, because I was like right at the very beginning of the pandemic, or a couple months into it, you know. I think it was like the first summer of it. So, but yeah, so he was up here for a minute. That's what we did. But I think that was the last time I seen him. Pretty sure, yeah. He's talking about moving someplace too. Or Nashville is where he was talking about moving, because same shit. California is expensive, but that's nothing new, but it's like more expensive, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people are going to Tennessee. A lot of people are coming to Texas. So
yeah. Yeah, they're gonna fuck Texas up too. Just like you know,
Austin's already been there for so long. It's like I don't even know what it is, but it is. They keep coming. So
yeah, I like Texas. All right, man. It's not as bad as people say it is, but I don't think I'd want to live there, you know. So what took you there? I don't think we ever talked about what took you there.
Man, I was a kid, or I was young. I was 19, and I just wanted to get out of Oregon. I just had been up there, and I mean, it's a funny choice looking back on it.
Well, Austin was kind of cool probably when you did that.
It was cool as hell, man. It was cool as hell. This was in 96.
Oh, yeah, it was fucking perfect. It was like what Seattle was when it was great, you know?
And it didn't even cross my mind to go to Seattle because the grunge thing had already totally blown up and shit.
And it fucked the city up, too.
And I was really into just different, I felt like different stuff than that was going on in the Northwest. I was into like roots rock, rockabilly, all that stuff. And it was happening down here. And honestly, there were so many venues. And, you know, when you're in a new place, so I came down not knowing how long I would stay, just trying to find something kind of new. And yeah, venues, it was just one of those things. And put together a little 2-piece band. It was called Billy Swamp. We just kind of hit it for a short amount of time. There's another guy that passed away, unfortunately, many years later. And then I had a 4-piece called The Standards that we was kind of doing the rockabilly thing. But in hindsight, that was a time where there was a place, the Black Cat, just, you know, we ruled the roost without even really having to, and not that we were like so great, but it was just easy fucking times. compared to now, you know, where you really could just step out and have shows. And I mean, that band was busy. And so, you know, just kind of kept it rolling. And then just time flew by, and started the Ghostwriter thing after that had fell apart. And I was like, I tried to fill in this tour, so did the solo thing. But anyway, long story short, I looked around. I'd been here about 11 years when I went back to Oregon, and I was like, shit, I didn't realize I'd kill that much time. But I, you know, got married down here. My wife is from Texas. So like you're talking about with family, we've kind of come to the point of going anywhere that we're going to be near family. So, you know, we were up in Oregon, be closer to my folks for a while. And then it came a time to be closer to her family. And they live in Victoria. We were just down there yesterday, Easter and stuff. That's like south. It's not all the way to the Gulf, but it's like about 3 hours south of here, 2.5 hours. And, but yeah, as far as Texas goes, I mean, as much as Austin has changed, there's still a lot of great musicians around. I like that about it, even though my own shows I can complain about. I like that I can go see stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like some of the culture, although it's, I mean, I say that every day, you know, we lose one of these older guys that really made it cool, decides screw it and moves away, and we get 100 high-tech employees or some shit moving in. So the balance is off, and it will, you know, we'll never go back to the same. But you know, as far as places to be, I don't know where else I would end up right now. We're kind of, I don't want to say we're stuck, but we're kind of settled in for the time being. So we're going to ride it out for at least a few more years and see what happens. But yeah, it's changed, man. So what brought me here was just music. And at a time where, man, I think about this and I'm driving across town, like Austin ain't easy anymore, but it was an easy town back then, you know?
Did you ever, have you ever heard of Sweatbox Studios out of Austin?
Yeah. I never recorded there, but I know guys that did. Yeah.
The place that I recorded Felix was next door to my old house in Ione where my ex lives. And that's Mike from Sweatbox Studios.
Weird.
Yeah.
He lived up
Crazy.
there?
Yep. He moved to Ione, Oregon, 400 people.
Damn.
And one day I was in my front yard, and I'd lived next to Mike for probably 2 years and didn't say a word to him just because I'm such a recluse and kind of a grumpy fucker. One day I'm walking to my house and I hear Scott Byram blaring from his house. And I'm like,
wow.
Huh. I'm like, that's weird to hear Scott Byram in this area. So anyways, I was like, either somebody knows me over there, or this is the most random fucking thing I've ever had happen, or Scott Byram's getting way bigger than I thought he was.
Right.
Well, anyways, like fucking, I got some gas siphoned out of my car. And I don't want to get too political, but I'd made some comments about how I supported Bernie Sanders. Well, anyways, on my personal Facebook page. And then I made this other comment on like a local like group page, like, hey, be on the lookout in Ione. I'm pretty sure somebody siphoned like a half tank of gas out of my car. Well, anyways, I had a message from my neighbor, Mike, and he's like, hey man, I'm your neighbor, and I'm pretty sure I got some gas siphoned from my car too. And by the way, like, we've got some mutual friends, and like that's how we met. And he used to own Sweatbox Studio in Austin, Texas. But yeah, they recorded
another name that he goes by. It's killing me. I
don't know. There was two guys, but yeah,
I'm maybe thinking of the other guy.
His name's Mike.
I'm trying to think of like a nickname that guy had, but I might be confusing him.
Well, is Mike Vasquez is his name.
Okay. No, it's not who I'm thinking of. But yeah, I remember hearing of that studio a lot. I had friends that recorded there.
Well, there's a lot of people like Nashville Pussy, Byram recorded there. There's so many people. Like
Brian
too.
Ryan Nelson might have been the other guy, a big bearded guy, but I might be confusing these guys with a different studio. So, but yeah.
Yeah,
he's not the guy. Never mind. He's not from 16 Deluxe or one of those bands. No,
he might be. I don't know. He was in a couple bands, and then he was married to the bass player of some chick that was on Bloodshot Records for a minute. I can't remember the name of that band. Yeah, I can't remember the name of that band either. I mean, I'd have to look a little further.
Yeah, no, they did a lot of work down here for a long time. I remember.
Yeah, they were around for a minute, man. I'm trying to look up Sweatbox now.
Frenchie. I'm thinking of a guy that went by Frenchie, and I think it's not. Yeah, I don't think it's that guy. I think I'm just blurring memories, confusing it with a different studio, maybe.
Yeah, and he let his.
You could ask him that sometime. Be like, you ever get called Frenchie? See how that goes.
Yeah, I don't know. His last name is Valesquez, so I don't know. But yeah, man, he's really cool, dude. I was like, I was super stoked to have him for my neighbor. We still talk and stuff, and now he still owns that place, but he owns a couple places in Astoria now too. So like, he's not there as much. But that's where I'm probably going to record my next album is with Mike, and it's really cool because he doesn't really like to produce. He just likes to engineer, which is cool because I can't really engineer. I can produce, obviously. Anybody really can if you know anything about music. But he loves like getting into the gear and the knob turning and shit. And I don't fucking know shit, you know. So I was hoping to work with him a bit more, but he's got kind of busy with life and shit. So
what made him move to that area? Family? Or
well,
anything?
you know, I think just like you were talking, like things in music and Austin weren't as lucrative for him. He'd got to do that for a living for well over a decade, I think, just having fun doing that. And then it just dried up on him and fucking sucked. And he decided to go back to school and start putting all these fucking windmills out here. So that's what brought him up here. Somehow he ended up coming out here to put in all these windmills. And then he ended up hooking up with this lady that's like a geologist. So he like contracts jobs through her company because she does really well doing that. So like she goes in, like say if like a company wants to build on like a piece of land that hasn't been touched, they like call her in to like check things out to make sure there's not like any like I'm not 100% sure. I mean, it could be a number of things. It could be checking to see if the ground's sturdy or whatever, if there's no fucking arc, you know, no relevance of, you know, I don't know. But anyways, he does the digging, shit like that. She contracts him to do that.
Totally off topic. I just wondered, you know, I knew why I went from Boston.
Down a rabbit hole of that.
To Dallas, but it's not too often when people make that.
No, that was so weird too. I was like, what the hell? I got like I had a fucking recording studio next to me for years and didn't even know it. I could have been using that, you know, to my advantage. But yeah, man, I thought you might know who he was since you've been down there, and you guys are down there around the same time. I'm sure you'd been at a show together at some point. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually gonna ask him if he's heard of you too, because
well, I might be confusing it, but I swear I think the other guy was named Brian Nelson, and he played in Gorgefok later. And I ended up working at a cabinet shop. One of the guys from Gorgefok was also in Boxcar Satan. I did a record with them many years ago, like a collaboration, Ghostwriter, Boxcar Satan. And that guy runs a cabinet shop. When I moved back to Austin in 2015, I ended up working for him for a while. So there's a tie-in. But yeah, I think that was, I might be wrong. I feel like that was the other Sweatbox guy, long bearded guy named Brian Nelson.
When we're done here, I'll look into it a little bit, or I'll ask Mike to see.
Small world, if that is. And
yeah,
if Brian's not from Sweatbox, then he's from another studio that was over there on the east side. But I swear he was a Sweatbox guy.
Yeah. Well, they're actually, and I think too, their studio caught on fire at one point in time. That might have contributed to some of the problems too that made them shut down.
Damn.
Yeah. So they were right downtown, I think, but I don't know. I could be wrong on that too.
So yeah, when we left here in 2007, I was like burned out on it. I really thought, like, to hell with Austin. I don't need to be there anymore. And then when we came back to Texas, we lived in San Antonio for a little over a year, and it just didn't really work out for us down there at all. And we just ended up back in Austin. We knew people up here and all that. So it's kind of a funny full circle where I was like, you know, in 2007, I was like, man, it's really blown up and fuck this place. And now and it's like it's 3 times the size it was then, you know, and it, you know, just totally different. But, you know, it's like that everywhere. And you know, find where you can, you know, get by and enjoy yourself.
The shitty thing is, man, is like nothing's replaced Austin for music. You know, it's like, you know, Austin kind of replaced Seattle. Seattle fucking probably replaced LA. You know, there's like, but nothing's fucking replaced. Like, there's no place that's like music. It's all money and business now. There's no art in a lot of the cities. I mean, there is, but not like, there's not like a town that just draws all the misfits to it anymore. You know, it's
True.
sad.
I think it's just not as important music because it's funny. It's actually sad to me how Austin has become more commercial as far as their music that they project, because used to it really did have a very independent vibe. And I may be just like a bitter person to talk to you on this. I may not be. I mean, there's good shit happening all the time, but I'll go see a band that I really like that's been playing like for 30 years in town and, older cats, but without naming names. And we'll look around and we'll think, God damn it, there's 3 or 4 people that actually relate to this music. And the rest of it happens to be there because it's like in a bar that draws tourists in and that kind of thing. But as far as the people that there's any buzz about, and I'll do this without naming names, but there's some guys that there's a buzz about, and man, it's commercial music to me. And it's sad to me how much more that Austin resembles like an LA or a Nashville than it once did, not that I know everything about those towns, but yeah, there's a lot of like, it used to be almost defiantly non-industry, like Wayne the Train. You'd go see him and he would just be like,
that's what I was gonna say. I bet you're talking like
man.
the Continental Club with like Dale Watson and Wayne when they used to have residency there,
Yeah, they were staunchly anti-Nashville and in a way, just not part of the record industry by and large. We're now, we're just a part of it, I guess. And it's not even the record industry. Austin's a high-tech town. It's really like high-tech, and high-tech promotes music. So it's like, that's almost the more important ingredient than the music. So anyway.
Yeah. Well, shit, buddy. This was a great interview.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Not to rant on that.
No, man, I love it when that happens. That's what I'm about, really. This conversation felt really natural, and I don't want to like get too negative on some of my past ones, but I haven't had one that I felt like this natural for a minute. So this is fun, man. Cool. I felt like I don't know. I guess I should say more like I felt like I was on like the interviewer role more, and on the other, like on a few of my most recent ones where I was like, okay, well, there's this, I like it when the conversation is like natural, and that was fun about this one, man. It's like, we clicked really quick. It's probably just because like I freaked out because I had no idea that you're from like the Doofer area.
Eastern Oregon,
you're more central, but you get it, man.
It is central, man. Now that bothered me about being back up there. It was always central growing up. But now,
I'm probably a little more central. I'm like right where the east starts, pretty much. But some people say, "Oh, you're like more central, though, right?" Because I am just a little bit east of Bend, but north. And north.
Bend is like dead center.
As
far as people's view of the state, it just became that everything that side of Portland is now east.
Yeah. Exactly. Because I'm still probably 3 hours from the Idaho border, So yeah, I'm probably closer to central than east, but people do consider us more eastern Oregon.
You're in that spot, man. I tell people because they don't know, if they don't know this, that as you go south and east of where you are to the corner, that's on par with the least populated parts of the entire country. And if you do like the Google Maps with the lights and shit, there is no light out there, man. Yeah, that's like, and you know how the 84 curves down. So the 84 takes you out there like, to Idaho and shit. But if you go south of that, you're in that southern eastern Oregon.
Well, like John Day and that area and like Burns. Yeah. And I've never been down there. I might take a trip down there this summer because I'm just trying to.
It might have changed since I got my trivia on that, but it was some part of like Montana as far as the least populated. And I would imagine Montana is now more populated than that part of Oregon,
Probably, man. You're probably right. I just never thought about it. I figured there would probably be less populated areas in Wyoming. Because that's the big thing is like everybody's like, you can drive for like 4 hours and not see a gas station in Wyoming, which I've never done that, but I'm assuming that it's probably possible, but it's probably possible that you probably don't see much between Burns and Reno. I'm going to guess when you're like getting down in that area, like, and it's pretty cool. I might head down there this summer and check it out. Cause like, there's also like a lot of UFO sightings, a lot of weird paranormal shit down that way too. And it's supposed to be really popular in summer. Yeah. So, have you ever been down that way?
I've just driven it. I mean, I've driven through, but generally I'm on the 84. So no, not really.
Well, I've never had a fucking reason to, man, ever. I've never went to Reno. Not that way. I've went to Reno, but from California, So, did I lose you? Uh-oh.
All right.
All right, had some technical difficulties. Steve's phone died. But yeah, man. I think we're talking about Eastern Oregon and just how fucking crazy.
You asked me if I'd been in that spot, and I was going to say, well, I feel like where I grew up was just the beginning of that. Because if you look at the map, we're like the last. And then there's Bend out there, but it's pretty much the last of the civilization. And then it just goes to, the high desert.
Yeah, it sure is, man. Yeah, there's like a corner from about where you guys are at that goes all the way almost down to fucking Reno, where there's not much except little towns and little desert towns. There's like some kind of bigger places that are probably like the size of Hermiston or so, but most of them are just really small towns, like 1,200 people or so.
Yeah.
Like John Day is cool. I've been to John Day. I think that's the furthest southeast I've been.
Okay.
But yeah, I want to go further because the mountains there look really cool, man. Like
we got married out in Shantico. That's in that area.
I love Shantico. Well,
Yeah.
Shantico's way more fucking west than John Day.
Okay.
It's quite a ways away from John Day, but yeah, Shantico's cool, man. That's closer to you guys.
Yeah, we've been out there in Antelope. I associate all that stuff kind of as the same, but yeah, you're right. John Day's probably further.
Yeah, it is. That is a little weird though. I mean, it's probably like good 2.5, 3 hours from John Day, but yeah, you get to Antelope. I mean, everything's so far away that there's landmarks that like, then it's like, well, Antelope does kind of seem close to John Day, but it isn't that far from Shantico,
Yeah.
Yeah. Shantico's cool, man. There's a lot of cool little towns up in that area. I love driving that way.
No, we just we didn't when we were getting married. This is like we've been married about 16 years. We were living here in Austin. We visited my folks one time and drove out there just sightseeing, because Shantico at the time was kind of like sort of happening. The guy that had bought a bunch of I think it's all closed, but the Shantico Hotel had been kind of renovated. And he was really trying to turn it into like a, day tripping beach tourist town destination. But there was a little chapel and my wife had just said, well, we should get married there. And we looked into it and, it was just a way for us to run off and get married and not have a big family wedding here in Texas. Because if we'd have done it here, her family's a lot bigger than mine. We would have never got it done. So it was cool. And I thought, well, we'll always get to go to Shantico if we want. Kind of have something, but I think unless maybe somebody bought it again, I think that the hotel is gone and
they still keep it. They do like a yearly thing, I think, man. I was following for a minute anyways because it's cool. They got like a little store there. Last time I was there, I bought a Mountain Dew that was expired by like a year. But yeah. Well, shit, man. So is the album up for sale yet, or are you just releasing it to press?
Oh yeah, no, it's around. It came out last Tuesday. And this is good. It ties in. The website is endofthewest.com.
Okay.
That's the label, End of the West Records. So
right.
I've been using that name forever, but I got it out of that area, So yeah, it's for sale on CD there. And then it's on all of the like Spotify and Apple and Amazon and all that shit. And you just got to search Ghostwriter and then you got to find the right Ghostwriter and then, find it on there.
All right, cool, man. Well, I think we'll wrap it up. Thanks for coming on, man. Is there anything else you want to add real quick before we get off here?
No, that's it, man. I got the website in. That's important stuff. Check out the record. Thanks for having me. And, it's good chatting.
Thanks for coming on, man. If you ever want to come back on, just hit me up.
All right.
All right, thanks, Steve. Bye.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Big thanks to Steve for coming on, talking about Ghostwriter. That was a great interview, man. We had an Oprah interview, as my friend Jody Robbins would say. talked about a lot of shit, covered a lot of things. But anyways, yeah. So be sure to go check that album out. Also, big thanks to everybody who's been listening. Views are great. But if you guys could share, always share. If you like what we're doing, share. That's what helps us. That's old Boo in the background. If you heard a little bell jingling, she's feeling better. For those of you that listen to Useless and Alone, you know, my cat got spayed last week. She's back to living her best Boo life, though. But yeah, so give my typical spiel here about how if you're a musician or a band or anybody who wants to get their music heard to tens of people, hit me up, man. I'd love to play on my podcast. Always on the hunt. I got like 3 new podcasts out, or not 3 new ones, but you know, I got 3 music podcasts. One with Felix Thursday called the Dog Bite and Felix Adventure Hour-ish. And then I got Useless and Alone podcast, and I got Dog Water every month. So we're always looking for music to play. Always. So please feel free to hit me up. Please share the shows around when you see them and you dig them. And I appreciate all you guys. If you want to sponsor, please let me know. I'd love to work something out. Maybe we can even work a deal and trade. Gotta have money. You know, we make a trade. I'm all about trading, all about hustling, all about the barter system. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, we're going to send you out with a Ghostwriter song. This song is Morning Like This. Thank you guys all for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
It was a morning like this where the cats take shelter and the spiders are finally gone. It was a morning like this where the cats take shelter and the dogs weren't howling at all. It was a morning like this where the cats take shelter and the spiders are finally gone. It was a morning like this where the cats take shelter. Rainfall wouldn't stop pouring. It was a morning like this where the sky is bleaker than the day that's coming and the night was long. A morning like this where all God's creatures are cowering from the storm. It was a morning like this where there's no future. A morning like this where everything's wrong. A morning like this where all God's creatures are hearkening back to where they were born. It was a morning like this where the cats take shelter and the spiders are finally gone. It was a morning like this where the cats take shelter and the dogs weren't howling at all. It was a morning like this where the cats take shelter and the spiders are finally gone. It was a morning like this where the cats take shelter. Rainfall wouldn't stop pouring. It was a morning like this where there's no future. A morning like this when everything's gone. A morning like this where all God's creatures are cowering from the storm. A morning like this where the sky is bleaker than the day that's coming and the night was long. A morning like this where the cats take shelter. Spiders are singing their farewell songs. It was a morning like this where the cats take shelter and the spiders are finally gone. It was a morning like this where the cats take shelter and the rainfall wouldn't stop pouring. It was a morning like this where the cats take shelter and the spiders are finally gone. It was a morning like this where the cats take shelter. Dogs weren't howling